Hey, what's up, everybody? All right, so I do talk about with clients and for the upcoming course that I'm creating that improvisation is just composition on the fly. And I want to go through a couple stages in this video. I wanted to just give like a little preamble beforehand. The point of this is whether you're improvising or you're going for something that's a little bit more composed. If we're playing over changes and targeting specific notes for those chords, I mean, the main aspect is knowing where those chord tones are for the next chord. So if I have my G, and I'm up here on a B, right? And then my next chord, because this is the progression that I'm doing, goes to a C, I know that I can just go up that one half step to a C. And then if I go back to a G, I could go up to a D because that's in my G chord, Go back to this G, whatever, wherever I am, I'm never lost as far as what note is going to fit over the chord. And the reason that really does become so important is it makes you, in sort of like a language way, not be searching for that word, or sort of like I always related to being in another country, not having to ask somebody what that word is. Like you already know what you want to say. That if you're on that B, if you go up to that C for the C chord, do you want to go up to that D for the G chord, or do you want to go back down? Do you want to do a walk down? Whatever it is, do you want bigger jumps, bigger note jumps, smaller note jumps. So that's really the point. And then I'm just going to go through the stages of, sort of improv to a little bit of improv over the changes and then so on. So I wanted to go through a couple stages. I played a really simple progression. Please excuse the audio because it was done on my phone so that I could use the acapella app so you could sort of see all three parts or two parts, depending on what video it was, all parts that I'm playing. So you can see, and it's an easy progression, just G, C, G, D, repeated twice. First time is just pretty random. I actually do play over the changes a little bit more than I wanted to on the end of the first progression. But I wanted to sort of get a little bit more random where I'm playing the right notes, and I'm in the right key, but I'm not really following much of the chord progression, meaning it doesn't really have much of the composition aspect of improvisation. And this is just sort of on the fly. So let's check that out. Nothing was prepared here. So let's just do it. Now, the next stage would sort of be along the same lines, some of even the same licks and motifs in there, but I'm making sure I'm really hitting those changes, and you're going to hear that more. Now, what's great about having that first example and this next one is there might be times that this next one, right, the really playing over the changes starts to be a little bit too much. This is that dynamic. We're always going back and forth between a few different elements, and this might be one of them. You might say, I'm like really stepping on those changes, really hitting those changes a little bit too hard. I might want to go in the other direction. So now let's listen to that. This next example, I do stick very much to those changes. Now, the third example is sort of, now we're thinking solely on composition. So we're taking, this would almost be like if I was going to come up with a simple, chorus melody idea for vocals. So not even necessarily a guitar part, just because it's going to be very simple. And I'm going to give you there's going to be two examples here. First example is this sort of composing a very simple, on the fly melody that sticks to the changes and is very, very, simple and appropriate. Now the reason that this becomes important is because the completely improv one was on the fly, not really thinking about the changes. The next one was on the fly, nothing prepared, but sort of keeping those changes in mind. Now, if I want to gear myself just to, hey, I want to come up with a melody, that fits over these changes, that fits in really nicely, I can still do it on the fly, and it's going to sound less improvised because it's not an improvised guitar part. It's taking much more from the composition guitar part. And then what's also really nice about that, the fourth example, because I'll play them both back to back, that the fourth example is just after you're able to do that and you're able to whip up a melody like that, you can whip up a harmony just as quickly, to what you played. Now the rhythm, because everything was sort of done, in one pass through, the rhythms are a little bit off, but the harmonies and the melodies are there. So again, let me play those, and sorry about that, the audio. I know that the microphone on my headphones is not as good as it should be.